The air was thick with a cloying sweetness that stung my nostrils, the unmistakable scent of designer perfume so potent I could almost feel the palatial room suffocating in it. I stood in the grand foyer of our home, surrounded by the intricate woodwork and marble floors that had been my sanctuary for decades, yet tonight they felt alien, warped under a fluorescent light that flickered like my heart, strained, barely keeping the facade intact. Above me, the chandelier sparkled coldly, casting prismatic shards that reflected my shattered world. In my trembling hand, I grasped the silver cake knife, its blade glinting threateningly under the harsh brightness, as if mocking my fragile composure. A party had been underway just moments ago, a celebration for the birth of my grandson, a joyous occasion clouded by betrayal. I had spent days preparing, envisioning the joy and laughter that would fill this house, imagining the sweet sound of my family gathered around the table, reveling in precious moments together, but they never came. Instead, the only sound that echoed through the elegant halls was the tinkling laughter of my husband, a sound that felt cruel and foreign in my ears now. I turned my gaze to the plush sofa adorned with silk cushions, where a lacy necklace lay carelessly tossed aside, its expensive pearls reflecting light, as if they were innocently unaware of the darkness surrounding them. It was the same necklace I had admired in the department store window just weeks prior, and I remembered how I had breathed in the scent of jasmine wafting from the flower stall nearby, the floral fragrance teasing my senses and mixing with the chill of an October wind. I had daydreamed then of wearing that necklace, of the delight it would bring when he surprised me with it, a token of his love. But this was something altogether different. The glimmering necklace, his gift to another woman, felt like a dagger firmly embedded in my heart. I scrutinized it, and the room grew heavy around me. Everything trembled. The air vibrated with a tension that forced my breaths into shallow gasps, each inhale a reminder of the betrayal I had yet to fully grasp. Flashes invaded my mind, memories of a life spent in devotion and sacrifice. I could almost hear the clinking of pots and pans, the aroma of simmering sauce perfuming our cramped kitchen, days spent on instant ramen, so that he could dine on gourmet meals. I thought back to those years, how I often put aside my dreams, my career, my aspirations, so that he could chase his own. I had been the silent partner operating in the shadows, ensuring every detail of our lives was perfected, while his name shone brightly above ours. "Look at what she's done, honey," I would whisper to the walls of our home as I decorated for the holiday parties, the twinkling lights framing our perfect family portrait. I had prayed for his successes, pouring my heart into every meal served on special occasions, every birthday celebrated, every holiday spent as a unit. I took on every hardship so he could bask in the glow of public adoration, the accolades and applause echoing his name like a mantra. But now, was it all for naught? A scene flickered in the back of my mind, clear as day, the day our first child was born. The trepidation that had gripped me fading to nothing as I held our baby, the warmth radiating from that small body filling my heart with a light I never thought possible. I recalled laughing with him, swaddled in an immaculate blanket, the sounds of rejoicing surrounding us. In contrast, tonight echoed a hollow laughter, half-hearted, self-serving, and painful. The memories fell from me, heavy like spilled ink, smudging the picture of a life truly lived. When did love become an abstraction, a complex web woven of lies? It wasn't until the whisper of a text message interrupted the flow of my thoughts that the mask I had worn so carefully slipped. The display screen flashed and, out of instinct, I glanced at the name. L. Time slowed, splintering into crystalline shards of realization. I had imagined the worst, but it was never just a fantasy. Here was my proof, laid bare like the neck of a lamb awaiting the butcher's knife. Unflinching, the final straw that crushed my resolve. I felt my heart in my throat, an iron weight lodged there, pressing against the screams threatening to tear me apart. I took a step back, the knife gripping hard in my palm, moments spiraling in my head like a relentless current. In that instant, my life crackled with palpable energy. The betrayal crystallized, transforming me from a patient wife into a woman shaped by fury and grief, a tempest gathering momentum within me. And that's when it happened. The final fracture. The front door swung open with a confident creak, revealing him, grinning, careless, his laughter sticking in the air like the sweet scent of false promises, thick like syrup and suffocating to my senses. My husband, my partner, my supposed love, all cloaked in the facade of a doting grandfather returning home from a necessary business discussion, with not an ounce of remorse shadowing his delight. "Sorry, babe. I lost track of time," he called out, his booming voice filling the empty expanse of our home, while the sight of him turned my blood to ice. My heart quickened, each beat echoing within the cavern of my chest. How could he stand before me, so blithe, so unaffected, unaware of the rage that would culminate within me like a storm? "Where were you?" My voice emerged as a whisper, shaky yet edged with an intensity that threatened to unravel everything I had buried within. My eyes bore down on him, searching for that flicker of guilt, but he was obliviously naive, his face beaming with the joy of unearned happiness, totally unaware of the volcano set to erupt beneath the surface. "Just had to go over some details for the big presentation coming up," he said, the nonchalance grating against my nerves. A mindless excuse to cover the monumental failure of his devotion, of choosing a fleeting thrill over the monumental moment our family had just experienced. I'd never miss our grandson's birth for anything. The betrayal hung heavy in the air, taunting the marrow of my integrity, and in that moment, I could feel the knife's handle imprinting my palm, grounding me against the tempest that brewed dangerously within. Was I to let this moment pass unchallenged? After years of sacrifice, of quiet acceptance, was I suddenly to remain silent? No, you missed it. You missed the birth of our grandson because you were with her. My voice cracked. Each word fell like stones upon a trembling stream, the truth crashing unforgivingly against the buoyancy of his lies. It was slow. The mask began to crack, and the light dimmed in his eyes as the realization settled heavy on his shoulders like a dark shroud. The sudden stillness morphed the air into a palpable mist. I watched him falter, and for a moment, the world around us stilled, lending my heart the audacity to rise once more. But if you want to see how this wife destroys the traitor, subscribe now. My resolve had hardened like iron, ready to carve out my path in the ashes of betrayal. The air was cool, almost chilly against my skin, yet my mind was ablaze with recognition. Each piece of betrayal laid bare before me. Night had settled over our extravagant home, turning our golden wooden walls into shadows that crept with accusations. I had expected the warmth of a family celebration, the gentle hum of joy that would wrap around us like a comforting blanket. Instead, it was a bitter cold that lingered, curling through the once happy corners of our space, clinging to the memories that now felt tainted. After that fateful confrontation, I paused only long enough to let the tension sink beneath my skin. I remember the glimmering pearls of the necklace sat there, silently laughing at my misery, like stars glinting mockingly against a darkened sky. I was a ghost wandering through the hallways, my reflection warped in the glossy marble, a jarring reminder of the woman I used to be, and the reality that had shattered her. My husband was back in the living room, his laughter mocking, buoyant with a self-assuredness that chipped at the fragile remains of my patience. The following days passed like molasses, thick and slow, as I transformed into an unseen specter in my own home. Every movement echoed loudly. Every glance felt too much like scrutiny. I tiptoed around him, a delicate dancer in a minefield, every step an act of survival. The old me, the one who laughed joyously at the silly gestures of love, who catered to him with tender meals and welcomed him home with open arms, had disintegrated with that necklace's betrayal. In the morning, the air gripped me, heavy with the scent of fresh coffee mixed with citrus, as I sifted through the rituals of domestic life. I gripped my mug as if it were a lifeline, surveying him through the steam rising from my cup. He was, as always, ensconced in the morning paper, the light catching the bits of silver streaks in his hair as he laughed. My heart twisted. Could he so easily dismiss what he had done, weaving redemption within banal morning moments? It filled me with a bitterness that overwhelmed, drowning my urge to confront him. "You really shouldn't dwell on it, dear. It was just a long meeting," he had said when he found me scouring my mind for answers late one night. The casual assertion struck like arrows against my resolve, sowing doubt deep within me. I was desperate, fear and rage twisting my thoughts in a spiraling dance. Had I truly gone mad? Was it so outrageous to think that the sparkle of an unexpected necklace and the dark secrets of a husband could intertwine? Where do I find confirmation that his sweet nothings were just that, nothing? My salvation came unexpectedly, wrapped in the form of my longtime friend, Sarah. She arrived at my doorstep one evening, the kind of friend who stepped in like a gentle whirlwind, possessing an intensity that often leapt straight to my core. The smell of her signature lavender conditioner mingled with something invigorating, like fresh grass, instantly refreshing the tension-laden atmosphere. In her presence, I found an anchor, someone who had never turned away, even when I veered off the path toward the extraordinary. "How are you, really?" she said, her voice soft yet charging with unsaid concerns. I could sense an underlying current, something electric that heightened my senses as I led her into what should have been a sanctuary. But now, the walls might as well have been made of glass, exposing my fears, my agony laid bare. "I'm coping," I replied, the word tasting of bitter iron on my tongue. I cast a glance down the corridor, my knees nearly buckling against the weight of unshared truths. "But it feels different here now." "Different how?" She leaned forward, her presence suffused with warmth as she stepped closer, bridging the gap between my hidden world and hers. I hesitated. Doubt crept in, and I felt like a jigsaw puzzle with pieces missing. I think he's having an affair?" She filled in the blanks, her gaze fierce and unwavering. The stealing truth gave me strength, urging me to share the chaos in my mind. I told her of the necklace, of the laughter that ignited my fury, the text message, L. It spilled forth like a fractured dam, raw and unfiltered. "I can help you gather evidence, but we'll need to be smart about this," she declared, her gaze unwavering. The fire igniting within her roared to life, filling the cold expanse around us with shades of solidarity. I clung to her words, fear transforming into ambition. In the days that followed, an unspoken bond of sisterhood drew us closer as I began my silent reconnaissance. No longer was I a prisoner of my husband's betrayal. I took control. The kitchen became my command center, the soft hum of appliances a comforting backdrop as I meticulously gathered evidence against him, each action steeped in decision and determination. I sifted through bank statements, each figure standing like a soldier on the front line, revealing the hidden web of deceit. The sharp scent of fresh ink mixed with faint notes of the inevitable coffee I brewed daily, providing my weary mind with clarity. As I scoured receipts that danced with numbers I hardly understood, I felt invigorated, a rush of empowerment that ignited within my bones. One early morning, the sun crept into the room, casting shadows that danced along the floor as I perused yet another receipt that sent jolts through my heart. A dinner for two. It scarcely felt believable that he had the audacity to indulge. My pulse quickened, the scent of the coffee I'd absent-mindedly brewed turning bitter against my tongue. Patience fueled my endeavors, though the rage simmered beneath, each discovery like firewood being thrown onto an unquenchable flame. I stole fleeting glimpses into our shared world. Photos, texts, conversations that had once been intuitive and loving, now felt like reminders of what I had sacrificed. I found discarded heart emoji texts, fervent words that whispered sweet nothings meant for someone far removed from me. Each fragment I collected fueled a slow burn of both fury and resilience. In my heart, a spark ignited, a truth unearthed amidst the debris of betrayal. Days turned to weeks, and evenings filled with quiet, strategic planning by candlelight became a welcome routine. The soft, waxy smell of the fading flames enveloped me as I amassed evidence like a soldier preparing for battle. The gentle flicker starkly contrasted with the loud ticking of the clock, where each tick brought me closer to my reckoning. I alone was gifted insight, drowning in the magnetic pull of self-preservation. But then came the gaslighting. The days slipped by effortlessly, yet dread loomed when he returned home, foolishly unassuming, laughing his way into purposeful ignorance. Like clockwork, his casual references to my overreactions rolled off his tongue, while blue eyes sparkled carelessly with indifference. "You're imagining things again, aren't you?" he teased one evening, the words laced with honey but wrapped around a steel core. Those staggering moments turned electric with disbelief. How could he deny the painfully evident betrayal? Each dismissal eroded my confidence like waves crashing against a cliff, but Sarah's voice echoed in my mind, my unwavering companion through the storm. Trust your instincts. Don't let his voice drown you out. Moments turned into battles. Words twisted within our walls like a web that ensnared us both. A silent war taking place behind carefully drawn curtains. Often I questioned if his pretense seeped into my soul, my earnestness disintegrating with every innocent glance he cast. But somehow, the truth lay inscribed within my heart, a secret that flickered like an eternal flame. The clock ticked relentlessly, and beneath the allure of his laughter, I steeled my resolve. The game shifted. The tide turned. I gathered strength within myself, armed with truths that would shatter him once unveiled. If he believed I would bow to silence, he was gravely mistaken. As I stood at the threshold of reality and revenge, I drew a deep breath, a deep, soothing sense of empowerment flooding my veins. I had longed for peace, for reassurance among a sea of turmoil. Perhaps, but in this war, it was now time to reveal the depths of his betrayal. He would dare call me insane, yes, but he would also learn that this insane woman had uncovered a web of deceit too vast to ignore. And this time, I was ready to fight. For myself. It wasn't just a party. It was a meticulously constructed trap, an elaborate stage poised for revelation. I spent countless days and sleepless nights planning this moment, my heart racing with anticipation. Sarah had been my steadfast partner in crime, her support a lifebuoy amidst the turbulent sea of my emotions. Together we orchestrated a grand celebration under the guise of joy, a birthday dinner for my husband that would, unbeknownst to him, unveil the truth shrouded in deceit. The dining hall was transformed into a masterpiece, adorned with streams of twinkling fairy lights that cascaded like stars over the polished mahogany table. The air was rich with the scent of roasted duck and herbs that wafted tantalizingly from the kitchen, mingling with the heady perfume of fresh flowers. A symphony of laughter wafted through the open doors, enveloping me as a gentle breeze would on a warm day, the perfect misleading backdrop for the impending reveal. I could feel the excitement crackling around me, and yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of tension, a palpable energy that coursed through my veins. As the guests arrived, I put on the mask of the gracious hostess, a composure honed over years of practice. Every greeting was a reminder that soon I would flip the script on this charade of a life I had endured. The soft clinking of silverware against porcelain punctuated the air, harmonizing with the gentle thrum of chatter echoing off the walls. A deceptive melody that made my skin crawl. Just hours before, I stood in front of the mirror, the luminescent glow of the bathroom light casting an ethereal hue on my reflection. I had chosen my favorite silk dress, its fabric caressing my body like a protective second skin, and upon my neck rested the very necklace that sparked this entire series of events, a gnarl of pearls that now felt like armor. I applied my makeup with steady hands, the scents of perfumed cosmetics mixing with the faint traces of lavender from the candle slowly burning nearby. "You're not the only one who can play this game," I whispered to myself as I drew in a steadying breath. As I stepped out onto the marble tiles, the dining area buzzed with life, the vibrancy of the moment overwhelming. My heart raced with the thrum of anticipation as I spotted my husband, resplendent in his tailored suit, chatting animatedly, completely oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface. He roamed the crowd with ease, his laughter erupting like bursts of firecrackers, lighting up faces around him. It made me sick to watch. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I called out, forcing a bright smile that barely grazed my lips. He turned, his eyes crinkling with delight as he approached, wrapping his arm around my waist, the invasive warmth of his touch a reminder of the skin that had known my husband intimately. "Thanks, babe. You outdid yourself." The flattery dripped off his tongue, a hollow echo that gripped my heart like a vice. "Yes, well, it's only fitting for the king of the party," I replied, keeping my tone light, a skill honed through decades of survival. "Let's eat, shall we?" The buffet was extravagant, each dish a testament to my unwavering dedication. Every flower arrangement, a nod to the love I had once felt. We invited friends and family, a circle of trusted confidants who had seen us through the rises and falls of our decades-long partnership. Orchestrated conversations merged with the clattering of glasses filled with champagne. The mood was infectious. As we settled around the table, tokens of affection showered like confetti, whispers of praise floated into the air, along with the fragrant curls of steam from the sumptuous dishes. It took everything in me to maintain my facade, a smile etched on my face while my throat constricted in urgency. After the initial courses, flatware clattered against porcelain as our guests chatted over their meals, and all I needed was a flicker of the light catching in my opponent's eyes. The moment he would realize something was amiss, I signaled to Sarah subtly, who stood to my side, her gaze unwavering, lips pressed together tightly, the adrenaline surging in her veins. Then came the moment I had rehearsed, the culmination of trepidation. I stood and cleared my throat, garnering the attention of the room. "If I could have everyone's attention, please." A hush fell over the euphoric ambiance, the clinking of forks and light-hearted laughter slowly dissipating until only silence reigned. The murmurs stilled, and I could feel hundreds of eyes falling upon me, their focus sharpening like sharpened knives set to slice through truth. The ambient sounds of the evening lurked in the background, barely audible but tingling against my senses as I held the microphone, my voice echoing around the space. "Tonight, we gather to celebrate a wonderful man, my husband, the father of our children, and yes, a rather esteemed grandfather. But in the spirit of honesty, I think it's time for some truth." Understanding dawned on a few faces scattered throughout the room, confusion mingling with glances turned to my husband, whose expression began to shift. The laughter evaporated as he leaned closer, the warmth of his smile turning brittle. "Life has given us many things, darling. Joys of family, countless treasured moments. But in the essence of love, I have learned that truth is worth more than a false facade." I felt powerful, the tremor in my hands igniting with fervor, as every whisper in the room shifted closer to the edge of expectation. I've spent the last few weeks gathering thoughts, reflecting on what it means to truly stand by a partner. And during that time, I found something. Pieces of a puzzle I had turned a blind eye to. Pieces shrouded in deceit and hidden by the very man we celebrate tonight. With every word, I felt the icy grip of vengeance strengthening, the pulse of ambition resonating deep within. My heart thrummed ceaselessly as I unlocked my phone, fingers clicking through photographs, texts, and bank statements that would shatter the composure he desperately held onto. I clicked through the very first evidence, his pictures with Elle, unguarded smiles that etched his betrayal even deeper into my core. "This is Ella," I announced, lifting the phone high where the bright screen illuminated the room. "The woman you've been seeing," while proclaiming love for our family and our home. Gasps erupted around the table, a cacophony of disbelief, and the room descended into a breathtaking stillness, as if time itself had halved. I glanced back at him, the shock in his eyes morphing into disbelief. He stared at me, mouth agape, as though attempting to conjure the words to defend himself, yet nothing came. The tension thickened like fog enveloping the room. The aroma of the sumptuous meal now turned sour. I pressed forward, fueled by righteous anger, recounting the hours I had spent piecing together the dark secrets of his double life. Accusations disguised as loving smiles, whispers cloaked like lullabies. "You thought you could treat me like a fool, didn't you?" My voice quaked slightly, each syllable kissed with the indignation that festered too long. "I thought you were better than this," he finally exclaimed, his voice barely above a whisper, and yet the accusation curdled in the air, igniting the fury within me. "Better?" I sneered, the disdain lacing my tone like gunpowder. "Did you think a lovely dinner would erase the years I spent cleaning up the messes you left behind? Or that I would simply phase out of existence as you laughed with her, holding her close while I cared for our family?" I could feel the heat rising from my chest, blossoming outward, bold and unyielding, as that final thread tethering my patience snapped. "Enough," I continued, voice rising, my heart bordering on a violent crescendo. "Here's the financial evidence. Here's proof of the betrayal laid bare for everyone to witness." I revealed the receipts, transaction after transaction, detailing sequential dinners, romantic getaways, all while neglecting the love we had built, tarnished beneath insipid lies. As guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, I pressed on, each revelation shattering the flimsy structure of his defense, until one last damning piece hung in the air like a pendulum. "And now I have proof that you missed your grandson's birth to be with her." The room exploded in murmurs. The word birth held convulsive power, echoing against the tender hearts of witnesses. Their expressions morphed, disappointment battling with disbelief, as they turned to the man they believed was a cherished husband and father. My husband's face turned white as he grasped his seat, the laughter choking from his throat. Panic glimmered in his eyes, an animal caught in a snare, desperately clawing to free himself from a truth too strong to dissolve. All semblances of bravado evaporated, swept away by the tidal wave of his dogged karma crashing over him. Would he try to weave tales of deceit? Did he believe he could silence me with empty words? But in that moment, I knew there was no retreat left. A bitter truth fortified my heart with resolve. And so I leaned in just a fraction closer, filling the silence once more. No more will be taken from me. You wasted the years of loyalty I offered. But tonight, I will trust the truth to guide me. No longer your shadow. An explosion of emotions erupted in the room, guests voicing their sentiments in hushed tones. Your shock mingled with anger and tension swirling around. A thunderstorm of fury ignited within the ranks of my family, fueled by the betrayal they had unknowingly sheltered. As I surveyed every face, recognition lit within me. The call for justice resonated deeper than the chaos surrounding us. For the first time in years, I felt alive. The years of silence transformed into strength, and with that knowledge, I stood resolute. Would you have waited this long? Tell me in the comments. The lingering echoes of that night reverberated through the walls of our lavish home like a haunting melody, a stark contrast to the vibrant laughter that once filled the air. Only 6 months had passed, yet the metamorphosis within me felt like a lifetime. I had stepped into a new dimension, one carved from betrayal yet blooming with empowerment, like the first blossoms of spring breaking through winter's icy grip. Now, sitting in my sun-drenched garden on a warm Saturday morning, I inhaled deeply the sweet scent of lavender that gracefully danced on the gentle breeze, mingling with the sharp, fresh aroma of the morning dew. The flowers swayed lazily in the breeze, a kaleidoscope of color that painted vibrant strokes against the canvas of the pale cerulean sky. My fingers stroked the silky petals delicately, a soothing reminder of the serenity I had finally embraced, a stark contrast to the chaotic life I had left behind. The echo of that fateful party still resonated within me, a moment forever imprinted in the annals of my heart. Everyone had seen the facade crumble. My husband's carefully constructed world had splintered, shattering like glass beneath the weight of his deceit. Friends had rallied around me after the spectacle. Those once nebulous faces became steadfast allies, like anchors amidst the stormy seas of betrayal. And my husband? 6 months had stripped him of his glamour and security. Fame transmuted into ashes before my eyes. The initial fallout had spiraled into a black cloud, eclipsing any remnants of the life I had known. Slowly but surely, the world that had revered him began to abandon ship. People began whispers behind closed doors. He was no longer the high-flying businessman with smooth talk and gracious charm, but rather a man shunned, stripped of respect, standing outside the very investments he had built on lies. I traced my fingers over my cell phone as though feeling the pulse of a changing world. The soothing, tawny sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, comfortably warming the room as I looked at photos of my previous life. My husband's face appeared in snapshots, not just the beaming glow of the man I married, but now reflected an unfamiliar shadow of himself. He had been forced to let go of the opulent lifestyle, moving into a cramped one-bedroom apartment, stripped bare of the kingly existence he once commanded, residing in a squalid neighborhood that choked on its own decay. Friends had faded, and the laughter that once echoed in his presence had dwindled, leaving only the hollow sounds of defeat. The intoxicating scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air as I poured myself a cup, warmth spreading across my fingers. A home had transformed into a lifeline. This time, it belonged to me and me alone. I took it all in with every sip, envisioning a life that flourished without his shadows creeping through the hallways. Each day, I would clean the windows, bask in the sunlight, and renew my spirit. As the heat of the coffee seeped into my veins, a click of a memory echoed through my mind, the way he used to saunter into the room, enveloped in the intoxicating aroma of expensive cologne, his laughter compelling. I wondered if he still wielded that charm around the new tenants that had sprung from the remnants of the life we had known. Did he still smile with confidence, or had doubt wormed its way into his heart? If he only knew how foolishly he danced around his own demise, how the tapestry he had woven with lies unraveled before him. In stark contrast, the mistress, Ella, had lifted her anchor and sailed away once the tides turned. News spread like wildfire. She had vanished the moment his wallet ran dry. The glimmering jewels and lavish dinners faded into memory, and the rooted businesswoman who had paraded as a goddess now found herself forsaken. Perhaps she tasted the bitter fruit of the tree she clung to, discovering that when the coins stopped tumbling, so did the facades she revered. I allowed a smirk to touch my lips. Did her perfume linger in the corners of his new home? Was her name spoken in the longing of empty nights? When the echoes of betrayal crashed against my heart, I had become less of a shattered woman and more of a phoenix, determined to rise, to reconcile with the ashes of my past. My resolve had hardened like tempered steel, restless against the chains that once bounded me. My journey hadn't only been fueled by revenge. It transformed me into someone unrecognizable. Each day I counted my achievements, celebrated new beginnings, and finally embraced the freedom I had long yearned for. Now, my attire embodied confidence. A tailored navy blazer accentuating the contours of my figure, sleek lines infused with the elegance I had rediscovered. I gazed into the mirror, catching a glimpse of the reflection. Strong, radiant, and unshackled. The scent of citrus wafted through the air as the sunlight caught my hair, a golden halo of rebirth, glistening in the light. This was not merely a makeover. It was a reclamation of identity, a bold statement of choosing self-love over complacency. I savored the moments that had become mine, the irreplaceable pleasure of turning the key to my own sanctuary, after changing the locks as a sentiment to the past. No longer were there unsettling secrets that lurked in shadowy corners. Rather, I filled my space with laughter, rekindled friendships, and shared dreams that I had long shelved. Each corner of my home now radiated essence, art, memories, and fresh blooms, a sanctuary flourishing in harmony. The aftermath of life's turmoil had turned into abundance. My career soared after sharing my story, a narrative that resonated and inspired others to unapologetically pursue their roads of self-empowerment. Speaking engagements, collaborations, and writing projects flooded in celestial waves of opportunities, like vibrant petals dancing in the breeze of serendipitous fortune. My life flourished, blooming like the fragrant peonies I had planted amidst the azure skies, promising a renewal of hope for anyone willing to take the risk of letting go. As I glanced out the window at the flurry of leaves swirling in the crisp autumn air, thoughts of my husband and the world we once shared drifted momentarily. In those fleeting thoughts I found closure. He was a ghost now, a chapter in my story enriched with layers of growth, but one I would never revisit. Soon, the sound of laughter filled the garden as friends gathered to celebrate friendship and rebirth, their joyous voices ringing like chimes on a breezy day, each note a beautiful reminder of what I had gained, not just what I had lost. I smiled, the vibrant pulse of my newfound life wrapping around me, and all uncertainties faded away. Just as I raised my glass amidst the clinking of our glasses, a query twisted in my mind, teasing me with the possibilities of a new narrative. What had once been a shroud of despair now brimmed with vibrant potential, and I couldn't help but ponder, what would be my next venture? A mischievous shiver traveled down my spine, igniting a spark of curiosity. I turned to my friend as the words spilled forth, bubbling with excitement. "You won't believe what happened with the neighbor last week." As the laughter intertwined with stories and secrets spooled out in light-hearted camaraderie, the future beckoned, setting me ablaze with anticipation. And what if I told you about the husband who tried to fake his own death to escape the wrath of his wife? I watched as their faces lit up in intrigue, the rush of connection stronger than any chains that had once kept me bound. I welcomed the unknown, knowing that life had more surprises up its sleeves still, and the journey ahead promised more tales of strength, laughter, and unexpected triumph. Little did I know, the wild ride was only just beginning.